everybody. Camera is ajar, askew, all of those words, things. Yeah, hey, I'm early. I'm not early. This is normal time. What up? Welcome everybody. Yeah, this is the going into the wild haircut, cause you know it be hot. What up, Vipers? Trip was fun. It wasn't vacation. Everybody keeps asking me how my vacation was, and I'm not saying that you asked me how my vacation was, but everybody around town is like, "Hey, look, you had a vacation over in Turkey." It's not vacation. It was 14 days of 16 to 18 hour days. What up, Evo? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I had a great time in your homeland, my friend. It was great. What up, late bloomer? Viper says it's the Turkish prison haircut. Writing that thesis. Evo is a great streamer here on Twitch, does science stuff. You should go check him out. Occasionally we'll do work along kind of stuff. Losing sanity. Oh no. Evo, if you have a link to your fundraiser, feel free to post that as well. Yeah, so I just got back from Turkey. I spent a couple of weeks over there doing field research stuff, and it was quite good. It was tiring, but now that I've caught my breath, I want to go back, if that makes any sense. I need to update your turkey name. Do I have a turkey name? I missed the joke. I'm sorry, Fid. I have missed the whole boat. I'm out of practice. I've been too long in the wild. I need to get back into the swing of catching sarcastic comments in chat. Oh, Turkey. Yeah. Okay. All right, back to writing. All right, Evo. Good to see you. Hope you're having a good one. May the dulcet tones of history be a soothing background noise to your thesis writing. Yeah, so I'm back, and I had a great time. When, like, gobble gobble one of us, haha, yeah. Turkey was fun. I had a good time. I took almost 3,000 photos. It's 2,783 or something like that. Almost 2,800 pictures. And that was just with my phone. You know, the big research camera that we had, that's the really, really nice one. I don't have access to all of those photos yet. Those were taken with the research, like the big fancy schmancy camera that my friend Dan has. So I'll be waiting to get access to those a little bit later. He had to go do some family stuff basically as soon as we landed. So I took more than that. Those are just the ones with my phone. So yeah, this is Adventures in History. It's a show where we talk about historical stuff. We do so in a way that is supposed to be fun and goofy and laid back. We don't have to be all stodgy and stuck up in the ivory tower with the rest of the academic historian stuff. I'm Spartacus! And Nick Solotl is Spartacus. Nick Solotl, thank you so much for the subscription. I gotta give a special shout out to Nick Solotl. The puppy head pat emote that you see there was designed and drawn and animated by Nick Solotl and then donated to the stream. And that is so amazing. way above and beyond the call of needing to do anything like that. Yeah, we still have the original Puppy of War. It hasn't gone anywhere. But the head pats comes from Nyx. Nyx also helped a lot. It's a great individual and an overall good person. And you should go give Nyx a follow and hang out and do some art. If you ate chicken in Turkey, then you turned the country into Turkshenken. I did have chicken several times. So Turkshenken happened multiple instances. We've got a little bit of housekeeping to do a little bit later on. We'll wait till kind of everybody shows up and the room gets a little bit more full. But we are going to continue with our adventure through history, and we're still in the 6th century, which is the year 500 to the year 599, and we have started over in Asia, and I know that was a long time ago, and we made our way all the way back over to the Byzantine Empire, which of course is just really Eastern Rome. They didn't call themselves the Byzantines, they just called themselves the Romans. And we left them in a pretty bad state. The last time we talked about them, they were being beset on all sides by the baddies. The Persians and the barbarians and more barbarians. And it was just not so great for these people. So, I just realized that I don't have the adventure hat in the room with me. That's unfortunate. I feel like I need to probably go get that. All right, 2 seconds. Go grab the adventure hat. Alrighty, had to go get the old adventure hat, freshly seasoned. It picked up some new stains along the way. I probably actually need to wash it. This trip to Turkey was kind of brutal. And I know at least, yeah, it's got some blood on it. I don't know if you all can tell. But it's got some blood residue. It was pretty rough in a couple of these places. Tapparelli is completely overgrown with the most thorny bushes I've ever seen in my life. And we were like climbing all over them. It was just crazy. I still have some, like, I don't know if you can, oh yeah, there's one right there, and there's some over here. Those are like over a week old. Anyway, I got torn up pretty badly. But anyway, it was good times, and we got some great pictures from that place and found what we were looking for, so it's all good. Anyway, I went to get the adventure hat because basically all of the photos tonight are adventure hat worthy. The stuff that we're talking about tonight is kind of right up my alley. This is one of those sort of this is a lesson that I could have done without preparation off the cuff. I did preparation to make sure that I kept myself on task. What up, Cave Geek? How's it going, man? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. If you're not already following Cave, please do go give Cave a follow. He's a great dude and a good friend. So yeah, adventure hat. We're gonna start talking about some emperors, specifically the guy that starts the show tonight. It's a dude named Anastasius. I wonder if Shane's wife tells her friends about her husband and his endearing adventure hat. The cutest couple ever. I don't know. I don't know if she's ever told anybody about the adventure hat and how I cheat on her with it. Anyway, this is Anastasius. And you're like, oh wait, Shane usually shows us coins that are pretty closely cropped and pretty clearly come from Wikimedia Commons. But it's a great day, because one of the things that happened when I was in Turkey was that I got to go to the Istanbul Archaeological Museum, and they have on display what is, to my knowledge, the largest collection of Roman coins that is displayed in public on Earth. And I went what I might call goofy and crazy and nerdy all at the same time. So I actually get to wear the adventure hat every time I show an emperor now. And I stole one, and you took this picture from my living room 15 minutes ago. No, they actually have attendants that got really upset with me because I was pressing my camera literally to the glass to get good photos. So this is a guy named Anastasius, and you can see here old Anastasius. I'm so glad. Like, I've got a photo now of, to my knowledge, just about every single Roman emperor, because I have a collection of photos of all of their coins. It's amazing. I'm very excited about that. So there will be lots of adventure hat tonight, because there are going to be multiple emperors, and I've got pictures of all their coins, and now I get to wear the adventure hat all the time. Yeah, it was pretty much like the little Craigasm. That was me. Dan, the guy that was with me, literally went out to the lobby of the museum and sat down on a bench and started organizing his photos on his phone, because he knew that I was going to be in there for a while. Some people collect Pokemon. Shane collects Roman emperors. I won't say how long I spent in the statuary hall. Not as long as I spent taking picture of coins, though. Anyway, by the way, the photos that I have of coins go all the way up to the 1100s. So, anyway, Anastasius. What up with this guy? What's his deal? Well, oh yeah, it was a great experience. We did get to have some fun. It was just a lot of work in the process. All right, anyway, so Anastasius. So what's up with this guy? Well, he took over in like 491, and the empire was in pretty bad state. And Anastasius is mostly going to be, and this is going to sound kind of lame, he's big on the treasury. He really wanted to sort of fix how Rome was spending money. There's a typo in Anastasius. Did I spell it wrong? Potentially. Yep. Anastasius. He really wanted to fix how Rome was spending money and collecting taxes. And coming from his background, which was not necessarily directly in line for the throne, he actually kind of had to cajole his way into the leadership position. He really wanted to look at the corruption issues. And there were lots of corruption issues inside of Rome. It had been falling apart. There were all of these wars going on. When the central authority breaks down, corruption is rife and is going to breed. And Anastasius is like, okay, we're going to fix all of this, and we're going to start with taxes. And everybody's like, oh, yay, tax reform. You're going to cut all of those, right? And he's like, no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make you pay taxes in coin. And that was actually a pretty big reform. Taxes across the empire had been collected in either cash or kind, which is you can give me a certain amount of, durable goods or non-durable foodstuffs that can have a value. So if you owe me $1, you can either give me $1 or you can give me an apple or something like that, right? But Anastasius knows that this was a way that a lot of people skimmed, because I might pay my taxes in goats, and then you go, oh, 5 of those goats died. Oh, no. And then, somebody would be skimming. He's like, no, 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 no. From now on, taxes are only paid in money. So you've got to pay money to the person, and then the person has to pay money to me, and it's all got to be put in the ledger, and it's got to be done the right way. And this actually cuts down on a whole bunch of the corruption, and there's no more fudging of the numbers. And it turns out that once you don't let people cheat on stuff, they actually have to pay the things the right way, and this actually brings in more money. It's like, okay, so what about soldier pay? One of the big problems that Rome had at this period of time in the 400s and the 500s was trying to pay for the military. It was really expensive. And one of the things that the Roman emperors of the past had each soldier do was basically just show up, and then Rome was going to give you all of your stuff, right? So you show up and sign up for the army, and Rome is going to give you your helmet and your breastplate and your sword and your greaves and your shield and your backpack and your shovel, and they were just going to supply all of this up front to you. And because of that, it cost a lot of money to recruit a troop. So what Rome decided to do under Anastasius was, here's the deal. We're going to set prices of what a sword should cost, right? Like the Roman gladius. It's a sword. It's a short sword. It's kind of straight, bladed, about yay long. The blade was about yay long. The whole sword's about that long, right? That's more of a thrusting weapon than it is a slicing weapon. He's going to say, okay, here's what a gladius should cost. Here's what a shield should cost. And we're going to pick people that are sort of what we might consider a government-sponsored blacksmiths that are across the empire. And instead of paying up front for all of these goods, when someone shows up to the army and signs up, we're going to give them kind of a upfront check, and then they are going to go buy their stuff. And what this did means that Rome doesn't have to have all of this armor and arms and stuff kind of sitting around waiting. It's shifting that onus to the individual soldier, but that means Rome is now more free with how it can actually use the money designated for the military. And this actually means that instead of buying a whole bunch of stuff that they might not even need and then just leaving it sitting around in a big warehouse somewhere, they actually cut their overhead. And they're actually able to give soldiers a raise, which was a big deal because army pay wasn't the best around this time. And bringing army pay up means that they got more actual Romans that were citizens signing up to join the military. And this was another big bonus because the armies that Rome had fallen back on time and time again from the 300s to the 400s had been like kind of weird barbarian federati armies. These not real Romans fighting under the Roman banner, right? It's in a cruel world, it is. This is my sword. There are many like it, but this one is mine. This is my sword. I purchased it from a Roman imperial approved blacksmith. There are many like it, but Rome gave me the money to buy this one. Right? So this is going to be Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. Kyle, thank you so much for being Spartacus. 26 months. It's crazy. It's crazy. See that first badge, and I appreciate it. What's up, man? Hope you're having a good one. Hooray for a Shane stream. Yup, yup, yup. That's what it is. So, we're going to pay for stuff. We're going to pay our taxes in coin. We're going to shift the pay structure to benefit the soldiers. This is going to make more money. Also, Anastasius is going to pass some royal decrees that if the Roman government is going to buy something, it has to pay for it up front. No more long, drawn-out payments that have interest on them. What up, Neil? How are you? Welcome, welcome. You are lurkening and listening while you build. Lurkening. What the devil is lurkening? What up, Lumpy? Hope you're having a good one. If you are not already following the lumpiest dragon potato ever, you should totally go follow Lumpy Dragon Potato. The dude is a Minecraft builder extraordinaire. He's a really cool guy, smart guy. You should go check him out. Guy who looks like the Squire to Lancelot is in every movie on King Arthur. Explain this stream to me. So I'm glad that I get compared to Lancelot because he ends up getting the good-looking woman, which I inadvertently also managed to get. So I'll take it. The stream is Adventures in History, and I am Shane. I teach history in college. It's kind of been my thing to teach history now for like 15 or 16 years. I can't remember math. It's a big thing. And we goof off and we talk about history, but we don't do it in the boring way. We kind of involve ourselves and make bad puns and dad jokes and try to have a good time while we do it, which I know is like not what you're supposed to do as history, but that's what we do. And I show photos and I wear my funky little hat when I show pictures of stuff, and we've got a map down here and we learn about obscene pottery from South American cultures. Lumpy is just never going to live that one down. I wish I could have seen Lumpy's face when he first saw Moche pottery. I bet it was awesome. You're a legend then, and I take that back. History teachers are one of the very few that I actually respect. Cool, cool, cool. I'll take it. Welcome, Neil. I hope that it plays the correct little thing. It was like... Unfortunately, he also teaches other subjects. I do also teach sociology, which is a fine thing. There's nothing wrong with sociology. And I occasionally do weird stuff like build Gundams on stream, but I hope I can get to do that either tomorrow or Saturday or something. I'm itching to build some Gundam stuff. Anyway, so Anastasius has retrofitted the whole monetary situation. But he's also got some not so great things. He also sold a whole bunch of offices. And by selling an office, I mean there were some positions within the empire, like regional governors, that he literally put up for sale. Like, who wants to pay me 5,000 denarii to be the guy that's the governor of this place? And some people were like, 5,000. It's like 5,500. Kind of sketchy. He also sold a lot of these to his like really good friends at kind of a discount, so not all good stuff. Also, he had a little skirmish, a little bit of a kick up with Persia, and they fought a war for about 3 years that didn't really go his way. He ended up having to surrender a little bit of border territory, but you know, you can't win them all, right? But what is most important about Anastasius, and this is it's actually a seriously pretty big deal. He left behind 430 tons of gold in the Roman treasury. Dude was a pretty good math whiz when it came to doing the numbers and crunching the logbook stuff. He went from broke to no joke. This dude is for real. Here's a question I've never had answered. Why is the relationship between Lancelot and Guinevere not condemned by the English? You'd think that a religious Christian community would think twice before, I don't know if I could say that out loud, their own king and celebrating it. Here's the thing. So, Arthur eventually dies, right? And that's, you know, the whole thing. Let's also not forget that while Arthur was a finger quote good old Christian, he also had a lot to do with Merlin, who was about as witchcraft, sorcery, pagan as they could be, and Lancelot is the good, true, fair guy who is actually the good Christian. And while Arthur is kind of the big dude. Lancelot's kind of the better dude, if that makes any sense. Also, the Arthurian legends are such a mess that the Lancelot and Guinevere relationship itself is actually kind of a trope relationship that plays off of other trope relationships like Tristan and Isolde, and I mean, there are even versions of this in Persian history where the king who once was a really good king ends up sort of sliding into dotage, and the good, loyal, noble knight comes to kind of save the kingdom and restore the glory, and in doing so gets the girl. But the Arthurian legends are so mixed up that depending on when you look at the Arthurian legends, are we talking about like the early proto-Celtic stuff? Are we looking at the what we might call late antique Roman territorial stuff? Are we looking at the kind of early medieval barbarian king kind of stuff? Or are we looking at the sort of high Renaissance stuff? Or are we even looking at the later, kind of post-Renaissance French stuff like La Mordature? Which one of those is the authentic legend? It's kind of hard to say, which is one of the reasons why the Arthurian legends are so messy. We're looking at all the Protoss stuff. Yeah, pretty much. No. We appreciate tangents around here. That's kind of the fun part of the whole thing. You never know what you're going to get. The Boris Johnson of his time. Yeah, Arthur was having alcohol parties in the backyard at Camelot during lockdown, and Lancelot was staying home and wearing a mask like he was supposed to. You read that the French wanted to add their own guy to be the best, so they made him the strongest and most chivalrous. But why on earth would the English accept their king to be put in a position where his wife could... Yeah. Well, see, we also have to remember here that the French end up taking over England, right? Multiple times. And the English crown and the French crown are irrevocably tied by blood all the way up into the point where the Germans take over. And even then, there's still a little bit. Let's not forget that by the time we get to Queen Victoria, right, the King of England and the Chancellor of, at that point, the Empire of Germany and the Tsar of Russia were all first cousins, right? Because they were all Victoria's grandkids. So, you were talking just like the NHS. Oh, it's like if we find out that Legolas has been having a relationship with Arwen behind Aragorn's back. That would ruin Lord of the Rings. That probably wouldn't happen, though, because of all of the weird relationships that happen in Lord of the Rings, there are not many instances where elves that are of the Noldorian line end up having big relationship with elves that are from the Sindar. Legolas is from like the Green Elves, the Sindar elves that never went over to the Blessed Realm, and Arwen, of course, is descended from the Noldor, the kind of big, powerful line of elves. There aren't really... Well, I don't know. And now that I say that, Arwen's grandmother is Galadriel, and she marries Celeborn, who was... Well, I mean, I guess he wasn't technically highborn Noldor. Anyway, we could do all of this stuff. Shane, I take your word on most of the history stuff, but why would England let France take over? That doesn't sound like something they would let them do. Well, tell that to all of the kings of England that are French. Like, William the Conqueror, who was a Norman, who was heir to the French throne, and then conquered all of England in 1066. So, Neil, I'm sorry if you hit the follow button, it didn't give me the little dun 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 dun, dun thing. Maybe my Streamlabs is messed up. Is there a way you could drop another follow? I mean, you could totally hit it at least once, right? So Sindar, it's spelled like that. Those are the elves that did not go over. And yes, I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings. There we go. Dun dun dun, dun 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 dun, dun 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 dun. There we go. Welcome to the adventure, my friend. Hope you're having a good one. So at every 100 follows, one of the things that I do as a bonus to the stream is to do a History of Lord of the Rings stream. So we're at 769 follows now, so when we get 31 more follows, we'll do another History of Middle-earth. No need to kiss my butt. That will only make my ego get bigger. Anyway, Anastasius puts a lot of money in the bank, builds everything back up, does pretty great, then promptly dies without an heir. This is going to be a bit of an issue here because, when he dies without an heir, everybody wants to know who's next. And the guy that ends up being next is this dude named Justin. And I get to put the adventure hat back on because I talk about a new emperor and I've got a picture of his coins. Ha ha ha. This is going to happen like every time we have a new emperor now because, again, I have pictures of all the emperors. So here's old Justin. Oops, sorry. He's kind of an ugly mug dude. But this is Justin. He rules 518 to 527. Every 100 messages, you do a History of Lord of the Rings message. Dude wrote a bunch of books. I've never read them. Oh, Vipers. Oh, that's okay. I've read them enough for the both of us. We average out to an above average Tolkien reader. Because I'm a giant nerd. Anyway, what up with Justin? Well, here's the thing. There wasn't anybody that was necessarily a direct heir. Anastasius had some family members that sort of thought they should be emperor, like his brother. His brother was a guy that was a regional territorial governor over here in Turkey. At that point, it was the province of Anatolia, or the region of Anatolia, specifically over here in, where was he? In Bithynia. He was over here in Bithynia, which is like right here. Anyway, I think it was Bithynia. Now I'm double questioning myself, and you shouldn't take that as guarantee. Yeah, I'm now fully doubting myself, but that happens because I can't remember everything. But anyway, Justin was the Count of the Excubators. Now, what the devil is an excubator? The Excubators were the new version of the Emperor's Royal Guard, right? So these are the big guys that wear like the red stuff with the force pipe. That's the Imperial Guard from Star Wars. Don't pay attention to me. The Excubators were a specific Roman detachment that's chief purpose was protecting the emperor, and the position of comites, or count basically, of the Excubators was a pretty big spot, and this guy was Justin. The thing is, he's not necessarily connected to anybody big. He's kind of a lowborn dude, and someone actually paid him a pretty big bribe to support this other guy for the throne, and Justin turned around and spent the bribe to bribe some of his other people, and because Justin already had support from most of the army, he used the guy's bribe to buy his own way into the throne. So Justin secures his position as emperor by using a bribe that someone else paid him to buy Justin's way onto the throne. Kind of a, what happened to Sears, where Kmart bought a whole bunch of Sears stores, and then Kmart took Sears over. That kind of stuff, And, of course, ran it into the ground. But that doesn't happen. Justin actually does a pretty decent job of things. When he takes over, there's a lot of rumblings like, hey, that common dude's not supposed to be emperor. We need to maybe say something about that. So Justin kills a whole bunch of folks, which is kind of ironic because never met a Justin I could trust. No, let me think. I grew up with a guy. Well, his grandparents lived right across the road from me when I was young. His name was Justin. He was a pretty good dude. I quite like him. I probably have not talked to him in almost 20 years, but he was a good guy. Let me think of other Justins that I know. I know one guy that I don't trust that's named Justin. I don't care for that guy at all, unfortunately. I don't know many Justins now that I'm thinking about it. Oh, there's a guy named Justin that was a really cool guy that played bass in a local band and was a frequent customer at the coffee shop that I used to work at. He's a really cool guy. So I know two good Justins, at least. I bet he grew up to take over an empire and kill a bunch. Probably not. There aren't many empires left. Anyway, the crazy thing about Justin killing all these people is that he's a super big Christian. All of the emperors were Christians because at this point, like everybody in the Roman leadership is supposed to be Christian. But Justin is like kind of the all-in Christian guy. You had a neighbor named Justin. He was in your grade, and your little brother was friends with his little brother. Well, there we go. There are at least 3 decent... Well, I don't know if that guy was decent or not. I'm just assuming. But Justin is like super Orthodox Christian. So much so that he decides that if you're not Orthodox Christian, which there were a lot of around the empire at this time, you either got to convert or you're going to get killed. And he has a lot of folks that are Monophysites, non-Chalcedonian Christians killed. Now, we don't have to go into the individual Christological heresies, but there were some people that thought that Jesus and the divine part of him were the same thing, and some people thought that Jesus and the divine part of him were different things, and it gets really, really, really deep in the weeds of Christian theology, so we don't have to go there. Christians are super into killing a bunch of people. Not all Christians, but sometimes yes, just like any other people are also into killing a bunch of any other people. I don't know if we can say that statistically Christian makes you more or less likely to kill somebody. I don't have the numbers of human history in front of me to make that decision. By the way, you were joking. 3 Justins you like. Oh, no, Justin Gerard. That dude's a pretty cool guy. So there's 3 Justins that I know that are pretty cool guys. Though I will say, I've heard Justin Gerard give advice for how to play PUBG the right way, and he's big on team killing. So maybe he's not as trustworthy. Justin Gerard is an amazing artist, by the way. If you don't know who Justin Gerard is, he's a really cool guy, as far as I know. Maybe he takes that PUBG. Jesus had nipples. Kill that guy. Jesus had a belly button. That's actually a big debate. Did Jesus have a belly button? That's a huge deal for a lot of people. No. I'm sorry. I'm getting that wrong. Not Jesus. Adam. Did Adam have a belly button? Jesus clearly had a belly button. Jesus was born. Did Adam have a belly button? Because Adam was supposedly created from the dirt. So he was not born of a woman. So did he have a belly button? This is called the omphalos. Omphalos problem. Yeah, I was mixing up Jesus and Adam. My weird religious rabbit hole brain went down the wrong path. The omphalos problem. Did Adam have a belly button or not? These are the deep theological questions that we have to answer. I create figures in the dirt too. Why don't I have followers? You got to breathe the breath of life into them. Did Oompa Loompas have belly buttons? I don't know, man. We don't know anything about reproduction of Oompa Loompas. We never saw any female Oompa Loompas that we know of. Maybe they just eat a whole bunch of chocolate and then, just create another copy of themselves by mitosis. Maybe Oompa Loomptosis is the way that they create more Oompa Loompas. You never know. You never know. You can't disprove that theory because we don't have enough data. Just about every crucifixion depiction scene. Yeah, so there we go. umptosis, right? Right? See, this is now a working theory. And as I have made the theory, you bear the burden of proof to disprove my theory. Anyway, Justin being a super big Christian actually does cause a little bit of international trouble. There are a lot of small countries around the Roman Empire, specifically down here in Asia. There are lots of Arab tribes that we've talked about in the past on stream, like the Ghassanids and the Lakhmids. And there are a couple of kingdoms down here, like the Himyarites and the Aksamites. And there are 3 individual kingdoms up here in this region. There's Lazica and Iberia and Albania. And you're like, that's not where Albania is. This is Caucasian Albania. Also, this is Iberia, as in the region here, not the Iberian Peninsula. Anyway, Justin, being a kind of super Christian, wants the rulers of all of these little border states to also be really good Christians. And this causes some trouble with Persia, because Persia was, of course, Zoroastrian and did not like the idea of a lot of these border kingdoms being super big on the Christian scale. So this actually kind of starts stirring up some trouble between Persia and Rome. And this is going to end up causing some big issues later on for the next guy. But one of the things that Justin really sort of leans into is this idea that the emperors are chosen by God, and that the emperors are sort of ambassadors of God, not gods. And this might have been a response to the fact that he wasn't noble, like he wasn't from a big Roman family. He didn't really have a lot of contact with a lot of people, so like he bought his way into the throne and then killed a whole bunch of people and then said, God wants me to be here. And that's kind of like the ultimate trump card. Like, can you argue that God doesn't want him to be there? Because he is there. Anyway, he starts leaning on this whole idea that Caesar is the church on earth. And this is going to lead into a period of time a little bit later on called Caesaropapism, where when the Pope in the West starts getting very powerful, the Byzantine emperor is going to go, oh, no, I'm in charge. And it's going to be just a weird time. And no Oompa Loompa lab rats, right? So we don't have any controlled population with which to run these tests on. So I'm going to say umptosis is officially the way that Oompa Loompas make new stuff. But the old I was chosen by God bit, right? Divine right. Good old-fashioned divine right. Everybody does it eventually, right? What's up, JMR? How's it going, my friend? We got the JMR in the house. Everybody go give JMR a follow. Dude is a gamer and builder of things. Sometimes Legos, sometimes model kits. Always a good time, though. Get on with it! Moving on. This issue with Persia is going to be troublesome. And Justin was already pretty old by the time that he took over the throne. And by the end of his reign, his nephew, this guy named Justinian, had sort of weaseled his way into being kind of the power behind the throne. And Justinian kind of wanted to go fight with Persia because he felt like Rome was in a really good spot to kind of give them the old 1-2. So Justinian is going to start causing some trouble by doing some raids into the Persian region of Armenia to try to promote this idea that everybody in Armenia should be good Christians. And he starts pushing for this whole gotta be a Christian leadership thing too. This is going to be kind of the issue. But in 527, Justin himself gets old and dies. That's what happens when you get old, by the way. And his nephew, Justinian, is going to take over. This, by the way, is Justinian. I get to put the adventure hat back on. Bum-ba-da-bum. This is Justinian from a mosaic. The mosaic in particular is in a church called San Vitale, which is in Ravenna. I'll show you the facade of that church in just a moment, because I've been there. But this is Justinian. And this is the adventure hat. Again, lots of adventure hat tonight. What up with Justinian? Well, he takes over in 527, and almost immediately it's like, we got to go fight Persia, because The whole border kingdom rigmarole thing had bubbled to the point where it was boiling. So now we got to go fight Persia. And the war against Persia actually starts off okay. Justinian kind of surprise attacks them and gets a lot of big victories right off the bat. But by the time Persia puts its act together, Justinian kind of finds out that he's not maybe as well matched as he thought he was. And he's like, oh crap, I'm not going to be able to beat them. So let's make a peace. And Persia's like, we don't really want to make peace. But secretly Persia did want to make peace because there were some barbarians going kind of bat crap crazy over in the far part of Persia, mostly like over in this region, that they really, really needed to go take care of. So the Persians were in the position of dominance, so they're like, okay, yeah, we'll let you have peace, but you've got to pay us off. So Justinian pays them off with 5.5 tons of gold. You know, how are you going to buy peace? 5.5 tons of gold is apparently a good spot. Just leave the hat on. You've been everywhere related to this stream, I'm sure. Can confirm. Can confirm. I was, if we put on our borders, well, no, I can just zoom in on it because I don't know. Is it going to show me cities if I don't do that? No, it's not going to show me cities. So right down here on the border, there are a couple of these border cities, like this guy, Nusaybin, which was ancient Nisibis. And this city, Dara. Dara was on the Roman side of the border. Nisibis was on the Persian side of the border. So the border basically ran right here. And I've been to both of those places. Not too long ago, actually. And can show you photos of that, I guess. But, Dara. It's not as big of a modern city as the ancient city was. But, did he have a nephew called Justinian? No, he did not have a nephew called Justinian. But that would be great. Turn borders and labels off. Justinian is a really big deal, though. He rules from 527 to 565. I'll put the... maybe I should just leave the hat on. I don't know. We'll see. I've got more photos that I can show you. And I'll put the hat back on and do some more hat emotes, and then I'll show you some more images. So here's some Justinian coins. You can see that he's got a lot of them. So here he is in a coin, dressed up like a good old-fashioned Roman, wearing his crown. There's some stuff that he did from Thessalonica, and here's another one where he's doing the good old-fashioned profile shot. You hate to be the one to break it to me, Shane. We're just here for the hat. You know, I'm actually kind of okay with that. It's a package deal. You got to deal with me to get to the hat, though. It keeps me safe and keeps my head from burning. Anyway, what up with Justinian? Well, when he gives Persia this giant chunk of gold, he makes this big treaty with them. And he calls it the Eternal Peace. And the peace between him and Persia is supposed to last 100 years. And you go, but wait, that's not eternal. I know. It was a poorly named treaty. But anyway. You get what you get, right? But Justinian is going to be a really effective dude. When he ends up putting peace on the border with Persia, then it's time to handle some problems at home. And this is one of the greater stories of Justinian's rule, but it's basically when sports hooligans almost took over the empire. So I don't know how much you all know about old Roman sports, but they actually had teams. And these teams had franchises in a lot of the big cities. And I'm not even joking here. There were even major and minor leagues. So if you went to the Hippodrome to watch a chariot race, you were going to see people racing in certain teams. And the top tier teams, there were 2 top tier teams and 2 kind of tier teams. And it was the blues and the greens were the top tier. And then the reds and the whites were sort of like the junior league. But they were kind of associated. So the blues and the whites were kind of friendly, and the reds and the greens were kind of friendly. Temporary Eternal sounds like a Justin Bieber album. Oh, alas. So these sports fans, they were actually pretty big deals, and it became such a big deal that these sports fans actually started sitting in certain sections of the stadium. So when you went to the stadium to watch the race, there was even like the blue sitting zone and the green sitting zone and the white sitting zone and the red sitting zone. And the emperors kind of had to make it known which team they supported. And it didn't always go very well. And what's going to end up happening in this situation is that Justinian is going to be a supporter of the blues. I'm actually a supporter of the blues, but that's mostly because of the Premier League team that I like in England, the Chelsea, who are the blues. You can hate me if you want to. They played American football, if I recall correctly, from high school history class. No, they did not play American football. America was not even known to exist at this point. But anyway, the sports fans even started developing kind of an eclectic following of ideological backers. So the Greens were kind of Monophysite, and the Blues were kind of Chalcedonian Christian. And the Greens were kind of like hoity-toity rich people, and the Blues were kind of more like the working class, work your way up bootstrap kind of people. And it's a weird little group of stuff. But this is going to bubble over because some people start causing trouble, and there's one point where some people were actually arrested, and they had killed some people that were on the other side, and there was this big problem with Justinian, because when Justinian took over, he started appointing people that others did not care for. For example, his chief lawyer was this dude named Tribonian, who's really important. We'll talk about him in just a little bit. But he put this guy in charge of collecting taxes, and dude was a whiz with the math and kind of cracked down on a whole bunch of the skimming and corruption amongst the upper class. And that made some of the people that were Green fans pretty upset. And Justinian had married this ex-actress. Her name was Theodora. And this was not something that an emperor was supposed to do. You don't marry ex-actresses, right? You have to give up the royal throne and move to America if you want to marry your actress. That's a British governmental joke, and if you know anything about early 1900s British royalty, you'll get that one. But if not, don't worry about it. He wasn't really popular with a lot of people, and he decided that instead of killing these people that had killed some other folks, he was going to just put them in jail, and that didn't end up sitting well with the Greens. And after a particular rowdy sporting event, there was a hooligan riot, and these are literally referred to in history as the Nika riots or the Victory riots, where the Blues and the Greens spilled into each other's seating sections and started just beating the mess out of each other and killing each other. And the riots got so bad that they spilled outside of the Hippodrome into the city of Constantinople. And that turned into like full-scale chaos inside the city. And they burned down like 10% of the city, and tens of thousands of people ended up dying in this stuff. And Justinian had to call in the army to like kill everybody that was... Yeah, I had to type it out first. Nika. I know where I'm going. Yeah, those hooligans. Yeah, so the Greens were out for Justinian's blood. They literally wanted to kill the dude, and he had to like go hide in the palace. And for a little while, he was hiding out in the church. And man, it was a giant mess. And it took like it took like days, and to a certain extent even weeks, to calm this mess down, because it just kept flaring back up again, and people would just go crazy, and it was a big mess. It was a really, really big mess. Sounds like modern day Brazil. Sounds like what happens when Liverpool fans end up getting pepper sprayed outside of the Champions League game, right? I like football, which is the game that you actually use your feet to kick the ball around. I know a lot of people in America call it soccer, but I know I'm a jerk for making the point that it's called football everywhere else. By the way, it's not called football. If you go to England, they call it football. Football is the Spanish word for it. I hate everybody who's like, oh, you mean football. I'm like, no, I mean football. That's what other English people say. Like when they speak the language of English. You don't go to England and hear them call it football. Not that there's anything wrong with the Spanish language. Yo me gusta el idioma de español. But that's not what we're talking about here, right? Anyway. So it's a big mess. He gets that done. Strangely, being pepper sprayed didn't affect the Liverpool fans' accents at all. They all still talk like the Beatles, right? What do you want to do today? Oh, don't start that again. Anyway, what is Justinian going to do? He puts down the riots. He's got peace with Persia. What's you going to do next? Well, what you're going to do is try to reconquer the West. Justinian's got this idea that he's going to put the Roman Empire back together again. And that's a pretty big task, considering that, you know, all of this had fallen to barbarian kingdoms. That's a big old chunk of territory. So, where are you going to start, really? And he decides to start with the Vandals. So the Vandals were a kingdom that were sitting right about here, and they had control of northern Africa and these islands here in the Mediterranean. That's where you're going to go. So Justinian calls up the army, picks his best general, this guy named Belisarius, gives him a big old army and says, go take back northern Africa. And they do, and the war is really friggin' brutal, and it takes them about 5 years of initial conflict and then about another 15 years of intermittent conflict to put this group of people back under control. So they take the Vandal kingdom down not too terribly long after, about 534-ish, but then the local population, including the Berbers that were sort of the native population down towards the Sahara, caused trouble. And there's a lot of religious issue because the Vandals were Arian Christians, and there's a whole bunch of mess going on here. It's really, really, really involved. But basically, by 548, Justinian reconquers the northern African province right up here. He calls it Africa Proconsularis. All right, what's next? Well, what about Italy? If you're going to call yourself Rome, you really should probably hold Rome, right? The problem is that there was already a kingdom there, the kingdom of the Ostrogoths, and the Ostrogoths had actually been pretty friendly with the East, specifically with Anastasius. Anastasius had recognized this guy named Theodoric, who was the king of the Ostrogoths, and they had set up a kingdom there and were doing a lot of things that were actually kind of okay, as opposed to what the other barbarian kings were doing. And they were being fairly nice with the Byzantines, but they were the wrong kind of Christian, and they weren't really Romans. So Justinian's like, let's go kill all of them and take Italy back over. And this is actually a really big fight. The wars to retake Italy were incredibly violent. And the big Roman historian at this time is a guy named Procopius, and he says that it was one of the bloodiest wars in Roman history, and that 15 million people died in it, which is kind of crazy and hard to believe, considering that's more people than died in World War I, and World War I had machine guns. So I don't know if 15 million is a good number. Everybody was Catholic at this point. The Ostrogoths were Arian. So at this point, there wasn't Protestant and Catholic. There was just one big church and then a whole bunch of people that were heretical Christians. So heretical Christians were like Nestorians or Monophysites or Arians. Arians were kind of like the first, big heretics. They basically said that Jesus was a created being instead of an eternal being, and that was like a big no-no, theologically and philosophically. What was the population of Italy at that time? So they were still mostly Roman, right? So the West fell in 476. So this is mostly happening in the 540s. So this is only one generation really out from Rome falling in the West. There were still there were still big Roman families that were making pretty good livings under the Ostrogoth kingdom at that point. But Justinian coming back, by the numbers, that's really hard to say. Did they have 15 million people to die? That's a fair question if that's the one that you're driving at. I don't know. I don't know if there are census data that would even tell us what the population was at that point. Rome itself, the capital city, used to be home to 1 million people just by itself, but it had fallen way lower than that, especially once the Romans moved the capital to Ravenna. Ravenna is, by the way, wrong click. Ravenna is the capital of the Ostrogoth kingdom, and it sits right about here. I've been there. It's a beautiful place. You should go. Just don't drive your car there on Sunday. You'll get a ticket. Ask me how I know. He's also going to come over here and take over most of southern Spain. It takes over all the islands. So by the time we get to the end of all of Justinian's conquests, this is what Rome looks like. Dude put a lot of stuff back together. A lot of stuff. Now, it might not look like that much when we compare it to what Rome looked like, just before. If we rewound to 455 instead of 555, Rome would have pretty clearly had more territory. But since Rome fell in 476, this is the biggest that Rome had ever been. Ooh, look, Edessa. Edessa is the modern city of San Lierfa, and I stayed in a hotel there that tried to rip us off. Anyway, little side note. But Rome was looking pretty great under Justinian. Dude was doing the work. He's putting it together. All he did was work. That's a huge area for one man to take back. Yeah, it was. And it's pretty remarkable that he did. In the process, this sort of gets us to beauty in the East. Justinian is going to kind of be the guy that puts Rome back together, not just ideologically and not just sort of physically, but also culturally and socially. He spends a lot of money. That big fortune that Anastasius had built up, Justinian's going to burn through most of it. And get to put the adventure hat back on. One of the things that he did when he took over the West was start building things over in the West, like this church. So this church is called San Vitale, and it is in Ravenna. This was kind of the first big new Eastern style church that was built in the West. And you can go see it today. It's a beautiful place. I probably should have picked more pictures from the inside. Really cool building, though. And it looks a lot on the inside like this guy. A friend of yours was there. Went to Ravenna. Oh, that's cool. It's a really, really great city. So this, of course, is sort of the crowning achievement of Justinian's building things. This is the church of Hagia Sophia. Now, the minarets, of course, were added later. This large building here, though, is Hagia Sophia, the Church of Holy Wisdom. And this was the largest enclosed structure all the way up until they built the Astrodome. If you know how big the Statue of Liberty is, you can stand up the Statue of Liberty under the main dome here, and there'll still be space above the torch in the middle. It is astronomically amazing. It's just really cool. It's really, really cool. This came from a trip that I made. This actually was a photo from 2017. We didn't get to go into Hagia Sophia this time when we just went in 2021. Since we left in 2016 or 2017. Anyway, since we left, the Turkish government has turned Hagia Sophia back into an active mosque. So the tourism part is not particularly applicable in a lot of situations. +4 faith and missionaries and apostles can use spread religion 1 extra time. Yeah, exactly. This it really levels up the faith, right? The 4 towers are Muslim tradition, right? These are called minarets. After Constantinople fell in 1453, Hagia Sophia was turned into a mosque, and the minarets here were erected. And the number of minarets is important. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 is just for the really, really biggest ones, like this one in the Blue Mosque, which is right next door. Yeah, so it's minaret. And Justinian also built this thing. So if you've ever seen James Bond or the Angels and Demons movie with Tom Hanks, which was not as good as... I'm sorry, Inferno with Tom Hanks, which is not as good as either Da Vinci Code or anything. This is what's called the Basilica Cistern. Justinian knew that one day Constantinople would end up being attacked, so he built this gigantic underground structure that is a big cistern. And you can still go inside of it today, which is clearly how I got this picture. But it's enormous. You could put a modern football field in it. Like, it's that big underground. It's really, really cool. It's actually not too far away from Hagia Sophia. And can hold just literally millions and millions and millions of gallons of water. So that if you're going to end up facing a siege, you got a big old reservoir of water that you can pull from. So Justinian is just building stuff like crazy. He's also spending all of that money, though. He's also doing something pretty important for the Roman legal system. He's got this guy named Tribonian that I mentioned earlier. Tribonian was a lawyer and a jurist. The columns would get in the way of the ball. Yeah, also, the water would probably make it hard to run around in, and the carp that are down there probably would not be very happy. Probably not so happy carp. They'd probably carp a lot. Anyway. Tribonian gets tasked with putting together this kind of monumental thing called the Corpus Juris Civilis. And the Corpus Juris Civilis is the body of public law, or the body of civil law. And this was a comprehensive Roman legal code. The Roman law code had never really been written down. A lot of it had to do with memorization. A lot of it had to do with knowing the right way to argue inside of the Roman legal system. And imperial proclamations were kept, but they weren't really organized or systematized. And Justinian said, one of the things we need to do if we're going to retake all of these areas is we need to make sure that this stuff is run the right way. So we need a centralized body of law. Tribonian, go get at it. So Tribonian spent years coming through all of the libraries in Rome, all of the libraries in Ravenna and Constantinople, and he put together this thousands of pages long document called the Corpus Juris Civilis, which included all of Justinian's laws and laws all the way back to the Roman Republic era. And this body of law is so important. I can't even tell you all how much it impacts our world today. But basically, all of the law in the Western world can be traced more or less back to the Corpus Juris Civilis. British common law is off of this stuff. Salic law is drawn off of this stuff. The big legal codes that are made during the Renaissance period are pulled from the Corpus Juris Civilis. This stuff is super duper important, and Tribonian is one of the more important people that has lived on Earth that you probably have never heard of before. But this guy's work put together this body of literature that is going to go on to influence legal codes for the next 1,500 years. And it's really crazy. I've read the whole thing in Latin. It was horrible. I hated it. But it's a really important document. Justinian also has some bad luck. Not everything is all hunky-dory for old Justinian. Later followed by the Corpus Juris Dreadus. I am the law. I got you there. I got you all. Well, now you can say it is the law. Who knows? I do. I've got a copy of it. So what's your hobby? Oh, compiling legal codes. Went back and pulled all the stuff from... Oh, man. My master's thesis in history, by the way, was on Roman legal codes and the evolutions of stuff, specifically of particular laws. So I'm really into that kind of stuff, and it's kind of a nerd thing that I don't go into very often, but that's like a rabbit hole that goes way down in there. Maybe that should be a group challenge stream. Shane explains his thesis. That might actually be fun. I don't know. I haven't really looked at that too terribly much since I graduated because it was so burned into my brain. I don't know. Anyway. All right. I'm a Roman law nerd. Gets ticket. So, what kind of bad luck does Justinian have? Well, there's the plague. If you were with us back before I went to Turkey and you were lucky enough to catch our bubonic plague episode, this is the big one, right? This is kind of the first big stuff here. Technically, I'm a Byzantine lawyer. I would say I could probably argue a pretty good case in Byzantine law. So the plague breaks out, and the plague kills a lot of people during this period of time. So this is the Justinianic plague. This is kind of the first really big wave of bubonic plague. It's really nasty, kills like huge chunks of the population. Also, during this period of time, there is a massive earthquake in the city of Beirut, which is in modern-day Lebanon. And it sort of levels the entire city and causes aftershocks of stuff as far away as places like Antioch, which has some damage, and Jerusalem. It's a big earthquake. And there's all these weird atmospheric things. So there's speculation that there was a big volcanic eruption, and it says that the sun was blocked off by ash in the sky for several weeks, which is consistent with a really big volcanic eruption. Some people say this was Krakatoa. We don't know exactly what it was. There are also all these weird eclipses. Yes, exactly, JMR, exactly. People literally thought this was the end of days. They thought like this was the end of time and that surely Jesus was coming back. And it was pretty scary to live during Justinian's reign, especially the 30s, like the 530s period was really rough. A lot of people just thought it's time to pack up and go, right? Did I not get something for, oh, dadgum. I didn't get anything for Justin the First, or sorry, Justinian, poo. Oh well. I forgot to get a photo for Justin the Second. He wasn't that great of an emperor anyway. Justinian dies without kids, but a guy named Justin II manages to take over. And you can castigate me all you want to, but I had a photo of Justin II that I took and saved, and I don't know what I did with it, but it's not in the folder where it's supposed to be. So, Justin II, he takes over in 565 and he rules until 578. It can be considered the worst year in history. Yeah. There's I've seen that list of what might be the worst year. I think that's 532 is the year that they say it might be the worst year in history. So Justin II, he takes over, and he's not in very good shape. Justinian blew the treasury, pretty much. Like, the whole thing is just gone. So what is Justin to do? Well, he decides we got to stop paying the bribes to the foreign countries to keep them from invading. So he quits paying the Persians, and he quits paying the barbarians in the west, and immediately the Persians are going to get ticked off, and the Lombards are going to invade Italy. This doesn't go very well for him. Justin tries to go fight the Persians and loses a pretty big decisive battle just about right off the bat, and he kind of has a mental snap, and he starts going crazy, and he starts like trying to bite people. There are times where historians recall him crawling around on all fours and acting like an animal. He only wants to eat certain types of food that are weird, and he like commands that he should always be able to hear music like 24 hours a day. So there's like organ music and lyre music that have to get played everywhere he goes all the time. It's kind of a weird mental break. The volcano blocking out the sun put a question in mind. Have you heard the album O Perilous World by Rasputina? If not, I think you'd like it. I have not heard O Perilous World by Rasputina. But if you think I should listen to it, I'm totally always up to listen to new music. So throw like a link or something for me to, or shoot me a message or something to remind me, and I'll give that a look, and then, or rather, I'd give that a listen. Always up for music. You shall link a playlist. Sounds good. So Justin II's not doing so great. And he starts losing a lot of land to Persia in the war, and he basically gets strong-armed into adopting a guy named Tiberius as his heir, and then in sort of a moment of mental clarity realizes, I probably shouldn't be emperor. I'm going crazy. So at least he had the mental capacity to know that he was going crazy, and he abdicates the throne and gives up to a guy named Tiberius II. I can't spell Tiberius. There we go. Tiberius. It's been a while since we've had a Tiberius. You know, all the way back in like the second emperor. Tiberius was not particularly a popular emperor by the end of his reign, so it doesn't really surprise me that we haven't had another one. And it's also interesting to note that as soon as Tiberius came to the throne as Tiberius II, he adopted the name Constantine. So a lot of things list him as Tiberius II Constantine, because maybe he was even trying to run away. Now, what a coward, abdicating for just being insane. Clearly not East Roman. What up, Shiggy? How's it going? Never liked Tiberius. They sound like bad news. What about James Tiberius Kirk, captain of the Starship Enterprise? I mean, he kind of was bad news, too. Shiggy, hope you're doing well, my friend. Good to see you, as always. This one I do get to put the adventure hat back on. We'll share some more adventure hat emotes, because I've got coins of Tiberius II. Boom. I've got one in the front. It's got a good-looking nose, got the big old hat. What's interesting here, he's got this globe with a cross on it. Now, that's an interesting move, because usually you see Jesus holding the globe with the cross on it, because that's a sign of like ruling the world. But remember, we're starting to push this idea that emperors are kind of on the throne because God wants them to be. So there's Tiberius this way. There's Tiberius on the other side. The nose over here clearly had some work. So this might be the original nose, and this is like the after, you know, after the nose job. But there's Tiberius here with his warrior headdress. You can make that what you want. But anyway, Tiberius II has got some pretty big problems. First off, problem one, Persia. They're literally invading. They're literally kicking Roman butt. You got to deal with them. Also, over in the Western territory, things aren't going so great in the West, specifically here in Italy with a group called Lombards, and here in the Balkan Peninsula with a group called Avars. So we have the Avars and the Lombards, and they're both invading, and they're both pretty bad. The Avars are especially threatening. The Avars, by the way, are a steppe group. They're the Avar Khaganate. So they're originally from this sort of Central Asian region and had migrated over this direction. So they are ethnically similar to Turks and Mongols, early versions of Mongols. So they are a steppe people that had made their way over to the Balkan Peninsula and were threatening a lot of the big cities down here. And this is sort of like the old heartland of the Roman expansion, right? This is Greece. You don't want to lose this territory. Also, Istanbul/Constantinople is right here. You don't want to lose the capital. So the Avars are a big problem. Persia's invading over here being a big problem. What you gonna do if you're Tiberius? Well, you try to fight both of them at the same time. Fighting two enemies on two parts of the empire is really hard to do. It's really, really hard to do. And he makes a little bit of headway against both of them, but it's mostly just delaying tactics. For the decade of his rule, he sort of dies by centimeters. He's not able to really defeat either either the Persians or the Avars, and he has to resort to kind of those old policies that had proven to be failures time and time again. He has to pay enemies not to invade when he doesn't really have the money, and he has to recruit non-Roman barbarian tribes as federati because he can't pay the Roman army anymore. He's out of money. Tiberius II doesn't have the best of emperors. He's got 10 years of rule. He doesn't do a lot that's particularly good. He's really big on the Christian side of things. Let's not go wrong there. But as an effective ruler, not so great. And he dies suddenly and pretty young. And this is a thing. Now people are like, okay, when the emperor dies suddenly and at a young age, did he get assassinated? We have some sources that say, yes, he was assassinated. He was fed poisoned food and died. But we have other sources that say, no, he just got sick and died. And let's be real, this is the ancient world. They don't have the emergency room. People do just get sick and die, right? So, did he get assassinated? Who knows? We can't say for certain. But we do know that he died and he didn't have any heirs. And this is going to really cause a bit of a kerfuffle. Because now we've got to figure out who to be emperor. We end up with a guy named Maurice. really tried really hard to come up with something to make Maurice part of the title, and I didn't want to just use Maurice like some people call me Maurice, because that's pretty just like on the nose. And nothing really rhymes very well with Maurice. But anyway, Assassa maybe, right? He should have changed his name to Istanbuline. Alas, I'll put the adventure hat back on one more time. Doon 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 doon. Sorry if you read that to the tune of Vanilla Ice song. I don't see it. Maurice Rice Baby. This is Maurice. Look at that guy. He's got stuff on his hat. He's holding the globe and the cross. Here we go with him over here, and the other side with the, kind of the profile with the warrior headdress on. Mordicus Tiberius. Old Maurice. 582 to 602. How did he get to the position? Well, when Tiberius dies, there are a lot of people that want to be emperor. And there are a lot of people that other people want to be emperor. And Maurice isn't universally loved. But he was one of the only successful generals that had been fighting under Tiberius. And they kind of have an application for who's going to be emperor. And it's like, can you kill the Avars? Can you kill the Persians? Can you bring the country back together? Shane is going to be terrifying in the post-apocalyptic hellscape. Let me just put my mass murder hat on. You joke. I don't know if either of my guy mods are in the room. I don't know if we have Kilted Preacher or Mac in the Lab Coat in the room. But we talk all the time about how horrible I would be in the post-apocalyptic hellscape. And I don't have a lot of faith in myself. If I had the Force, I would be dark side by the end of the day. I am a very happy-go-lucky guy. But you don't know what's up there. It's kind of messed up. You want to be emperor? Maurice wanted to be emperor. Is Maurice where you came up with the Beauty and the Beast title reference? That's how I kind of got this. I'm glad you picked that up, Kyle. Thank you very much. You joke, but I don't have a lot of faith in myself. Shane, after being compared to... Oh. Let's just say that social convention has a really strong hold on me. And if social convention were to leave, I don't know what I would do. So let's hope that it stays around. Anyway. You got to be able to deal with the Persians. You got to be able to deal with the Avars. And we really need somebody that can bring the country together. Okay. So Maurice is a general. He had some success against the Avars. He had some success against the Persians. And he says, I can bring the country together. So they give him the throne. And he's like, okay, cool. What do we got to do? First off, which one is the worst? Persia or the Avars? Persia's the worst. So let's go beat up Persia. And he does. He brings the whoop stick. He beats the mess out of the Persians. He forces them into a treaty where they actually have to give up a big chunk of territory. And he beats them so badly that in order to sort of stay on the throne, the emperor of Persia has to agree to let Maurice adopt his son. So like the Prince of Persia, not Jake Gyllenhaal or the video game, but the Prince of Persia is now Maurice's adopted son. That's how bad Maurice goes over and beats up Persia. No Ring of Power for Shane. Yeah, I would be pretty bad with it. I would reach out my hand to it and fall in my folly. Everybody, if you are not already following my friend Noger, you got to go give this guy a follow. True smarts, not the goofy half cuss word crap that I do here on stream. This guy's a brilliant guy. He reads philosophy on stream and has a really great knack of being able to take stuff that is really complicated and say it in a way that is really not complicated. And you get +1 strength just by being in his area of effect. So it's a good stuff. Anyway, so Maurice goes over, beats the Persians. Woo! Got him beat. Put up the dukes. Now, we got to go beat... You just like to think that your BS is professional grade. I can do the professional grade BS. I just... I tend to like the less... I don't know, like... What you do is great. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know, maybe I'm sort of doing the same thing with history, but I think that philosophy is a lot more difficult to approach than history, just by nature. People have less exposure to it. You really have to follow a lot of the logical thought patterns in philosophy, and a lot of it is very abstract, whereas history is stuff that actually does happen, and people can kind of make comparative relationships with people in the past. I don't know if I could do it in the same way that you do, man. It's good stuff, though. I always have a good time hanging out in Noger's stream. All right, what about the Avars? What are we going to do with the Avars? Well, we got to go beat them up, too. And he does. He beats the Avars, and he pushes them completely out of Roman territory, back across the Danube River, all the way up out of the Balkan Peninsula. Really impressive victories here. Also, runs into some Gepids. This is another group of barbarians, and figures... hey, we're already here, why not kick their butt too? And does. And then he runs into another group of barbarians who are called the Slavs, and he's like, hey, why don't we kick your butt too? And he does. And by the end of Maurice's reign, he even gets over to Italy and does a lot of stuff and manages to save a little bit of the territory over in Italy. So this guy is getting the business done. So this is what Rome looks like at 600, where he's able to put together what he can to keep Rome together. And this is remarkable. The amount of territory that he has is remarkable, considering how badly Tiberius was doing and how badly Justin II had lost. The fact that Maurice walks away with this much territory is nothing short of amazing. And this is kind of the high water mark of the Byzantine Empire for a little while. He had to put his foot on ice from all the butt he kicked. Heck yeah. I was playing Borderlands earlier with all of its ridiculous characters. Tonight, Maurice the Butt Kicker. That does sound like a character from Borderlands. I would totally hang out with that guy. Pretty great stuff. Looks like he's missing part of Italy, but he took the whole mountain range. So this part right here, the sort of central part of the boot, was harder to hold on to. These are the mountains. The Lombards had managed to get down into the central part of Italy and had gotten themselves a foothold in the boot, pun. But this is the territory right around Rome and the plains, the fertile plains to the south of Rome. This is right around the modern-day city of Naples or Napoli. And, of course, you got to have a territory that connects Rome to Ravenna. So the big port of Ravenna is right here, where the Roman capital of the Exarchate of Italy still is. So you got to hold on to this. And this is the Po River Valley, where a lot of food is produced. So you got to try to hold on to that. There's some kind of highland region right here that's a little bit hard to get into. But the fact that he manages to hold on to what he can in Italy is super impressive, considering the fact that he was at a really bad state. And the fact that he controls all of this territory over here in Mesopotamia is spectacular, considering how much he took away from Persia at the time. It looks like a map of where it hurts after you go for a run. Your knee and your hamstring and your heel and your toe and your ankle. Are you experiencing foot or leg pain? Try our special insoles next time you go running. Yeah, man, I hear you. That's I gotta tape myself up and tape up my ankles and stuff if I'm gonna go do running for a long time, especially if I put on my soccer cleats or boots, as they're called properly. Anyway, so that's where we're going to leave it. Maurice put everything that he could back together, ends on a high note. Unfortunately, doesn't go out that way, but that's the cliffhanger for next time. Maurice doesn't live out a happy life. There's a jerkwad called Focus that kind of ruins it all. But that's for another story. Okay, so what we got to do now is a couple of things. First off, I want to mention one more time Turkey. I've already taken the trip to Turkey. However, if you are still interested in donating towards the Turkey thing, you can if you want to. What would you get if you donated now? Well, there's a Discord that you can get access to. I have uploaded all of my photos. You can get access to that. And probably starting this weekend, if not early next week, I'm going to start doing Discord-only streams where I talk about stuff that that I did in Turkey. So if you want to, you can. If you don't. That's cool. No worries. Much love. I appreciate everybody just hanging out and being around. I just feel like I needed to say that one more time before I started doing like the big kind of stuff. Also, we need to pick a new viewer request channel thing. Gosh, words. And oh, not Lumpy. Hope you have a good one, man. We are going to have a viewer request stream next Tuesday, but I don't have a topic for it. And because I can't remember exactly where we are, we're going to just have a vote. So the way that this works is if you know a topic that you think would be cool to talk about, throw it in the chat, and I'll just take the next 3 ideas and we'll put them in a poll. The number 2 winner from last time was the Crimean War. So Crimean War gets brought in as number 2, and I'll take whatever 3 ideas you think we should do. If you already have an idea for I want to buy a stream with points, throw your idea out there. You never know, it might get picked. But if you are in the chat right now, you can put an idea in the chat and we'll put it on the poll, and then we'll have a little bit of a votey vote. And no one is typing. I know that you can hear me. Marco Polo. Okie dokie. Pliny the Elder. We could do Pliny. I think we could do Pliny. We might do both Plinies, the Elder and the Younger. Popular art genres. You'd have to narrow that one down for me a little bit. You mean like a specific genre and the way that it happened? Evolution of Castles might be like really hard. Because Nick's hit with popular art genres, I'm going to offer an opportunity for that to be clarified before we move on. History of computing. That would be a hard one to do, but it would be doable. Because we've done like Renaissance stuff, if that's what you mean. But do you mean like the the evolution of Cubism or history of painting genres in Europe. Okay. We'll just do European painting. All right. Cool. There we go. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to click start. Like I just did. And there's a poll. And above you, in the chat, you can click the little down arrow like this. And it will allow you to vote. And everybody gets to vote. You do not have to be a follower. You do not have to be subscribed. Everybody gets a chance to vote. If you are in the sound of my voice, you get to go vote. And it looks like there are like 16 or 17 people in the room. I can't tell because the numbers keep moving. But everybody gets to vote. And right now we have like 4 votes. So more than half of you are not voting. And you should. You should go vote. Go do the thing. Go do the thing. Our votes weigh more heavily. If nobody else votes, yeah, your vote would weigh more. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Still got about 6 or so people that can vote. And we have a tie right now, which is problematic. Because that means we're going to end up having to either do like a re-roll or something like that, and that can get messy. And Shane's plan for post-apocalyptic domination. Ooh, change your VPN to vote again. I don't know if that would actually work because it might be linked to your individual profile. Someone that hasn't voted, go vote and choose your desire. I would say you pick, but let's be realistic. A Roman thing or anything else. Vote for Pedro? Maybe. Do I have to do the little dance? Vote for Crimean War to make a 3-way tie? Oh, that would be horrible. Uncle Bill, did you vote? Please go vote. What about something more all-inclusive? A bit of James Burke connections type stuff. I'm not sure exactly what... Oh, you did vote. Cool. Awesome. Somebody voted for Pliny the Elder because I feel like they just want me to talk about Rome. Which, if we're being honest, I don't necessarily mind. But there's still time to vote if you have not already. Snipe it at the end, like an eBay vote. You don't know what Pliny... Pliny the Elder was a Roman statesman. Pretty important guy. Oh, Pliny gets it at the end with 5 votes. All right, so we'll do Pliny the Elder, or Pliny. Depends on where you are. You might call him one thing or the other. I call him Pliny. I know some people call me Pliny. I mean, I know connections, but like, what type of thing? Like, I mean, we've done history of cheese before, which was kind of like a connections type thing, where it's like ancient people all like cheese. Plin, not Pliny. So you say Pliny, yeah, but I mean, there are rules, and I don't know. Plan Y, the Eldar. All right. So we'll do some Roman stuff on Tuesday. That's good because I'll only have a few days to prep, but I could probably do that one off the top of my head in my sleep. George Clooney. Oh, not George Clooney. All right, so let's see who is currently on the Twitch that we might be able to Zeraid. Who bees around? I was around. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. You say plenty because Stephen Dry says plenty. There you go. Your grandfather literally wrote a medical book on farts. I don't know if I could do history of farts. It would end up being history of stories that have farts in them. I don't know. Maybe I could do that. It's possible. That's a not often heard song from Pete and Pete. It is from Pete and Pete. And I am incredibly happy that you know about Pete and Pete. That is one of my favorite shows. I have the shows on DVD. It's the good stuff. I love Pete and Pete. It was so much before its time. So much before its time. History of assassinations with farts. Assassination from farts. Adventures of Pete and Pete was one of your favorite shows as well. You haven't watched them in over 20 years, though. That's okay. They still love you. And they hold up. They hold up. I might actually need to watch them again myself. Anyway, this is the longest that I've talked in a long time, and I can feel the vocal cords already doing the thing. So I think we're going to go hit a stream raid and then bugger on off for the evening. History of Adam Sandler films. Oh no. They just go perpetually downhill. And then there's Uncut Gems, and everybody is like, oh, he's such a great actor. Anyway, I think we're going to just go raid a bit. Go raid Nick Solotl, who's doing some artwork on the stream. I'm going to hit this raid button. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out and being back around. It felt good to kind of get back in the saddle. We'll be back on Tuesday for certain, talking about Pliny, one of the guys. He's a pretty important Roman guy that did a whole bunch of political stuff and wrote a whole bunch of stuff. And it's good stuff. And then next week, we'll talk about the remaining barbarian kingdoms that survived the onslaught of the second wave of invasions and Justinian killing everybody. So that's next week. Hopefully, between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'll be able to do some sort of Gundam build. I've been itching to get back on that. I really hope that I can. That's the plan anyway. So let's go raid Nyx. The battle cry, as always, is adventure. If you've got those lovely adventure hats, you can throw those in the chat when we get there. Thank you all so very much for hanging out. It's good to be back. I did miss you all, for real. I really did. Not that I didn't have a good time in Turkey, but this is kind of like my homies, and I'm glad to see you all. So take it easy, take care of yourselves, and until next time, I'll see you. Take it easy.